So in terms of opening the meeting, let's just do a roll call vote.
Well, just Veronica Kell present.
Greg Smith present.
Bill Cadigan present.
Michael Brown present.
Elizabeth Saxton present.
All right. The gang's not quite all here, but it's enough. Oh, you know what I haven't got is the agenda. It should be in front of-
Did she leave them?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Sabrina didn't leave any?
I didn't
Usually
look.
does.
She might have.
Yeah.
There it is. Oh, I got no, what do you call it? Network.
TWG,
Hmm?
I don't know if it requires the TWG network. Is that what you're looking for?
Well, whatever town hall, I don't have an account on town hall.
Does TW, it's a guest, does it require a password?
I don't know.
Usually the one of the senior center does.
Does it?
Yeah,
Then it probably does.
so we don't know what that is, do we?
I might be able to find it.
No, there's a barbershop Wi-Fi, but that's everything's got
Into the future, capital letters
what is it?
on each word. Into the future. With a capital letter on each word.
Didn't like that.
It didn't like that?
In all capital letters?
No.
First word,
Oh.
first letter of each word. Did you get it?
I must have signed in the past, so,
So it automatically.
yeah. I just use my LTE though.
TWG, right?
Yes.
Connected. Awesome. All right. So I don't have any additions or deletions. We've got minutes. I don't have a copy of the minutes. Has anybody looked over the minutes?
Yeah. To look fine.
Yeah, I read them.
All right. Is there a motion to
Good to
approve
me.
the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second?
Polling the members. Michael,
Michael Brown, yes.
Bill Cadigan, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Greg Smith, yes.
And Beth, oh, there she is. We're approving the minutes.
Yes, sorry, I'll abstain. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that's done. The noise ordinance draft. Actually, let's skip to the outdoor lighting because I haven't done much with the noise thing, except I think that Pepperell one is pretty good.
Okay, so if we want to go to outdoor lighting, maybe I can share. Can I share my screen?
Give me a moment here.
All right.
Point of order, didn't he say noise control bylaw? Or did I miss that?
Oh,
What do we-
I think he said we'll skip to outdoor lighting.
Skip over to the outdoor lighting.
Okay,
and
thank you.
We'll come back to the noise.
Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Oh, wait a minute. Outdoor lighting. Can you see the outdoor lighting text?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so I think maybe other than Beth, you were all at the last meeting, so I don't need to go through the whole thing again
No.
necessarily, but in summary, I made some relatively minor changes overall to the existing bylaw. First and foremost, this draft uh, would consolidate the existing two bylaws, one of which is for public lighting, one is for private. So there would be one bylaw. And there was a new provision that I proposed. I'll scroll down to the actual text. So we went over this last time, but I made a couple of new updates since the last meeting. So wait, so this is all definitions. Okay, this section C regulations. This is in the existing bylaw. Okay, so C1 here, see where I'm kind of circling around. That's the critical part of it. That just stays the same, that basically all lights should be shielded fully, no light above a horizontal. The second part, which previously had this limitation on height, 25 feet maximum height, and then even less when you're next to the property line, according to this formula. So what I did was I put in this second part as an alternative to meeting the height limit. You could simply shield the light, like if you have a light that's on a pole that's right next to the property line, you could shield it so that at the property line, the brightness of the light is less than as specified here. It's either 0.05 or 0.1 foot candle, the 0.05 being for like a sensitive location or next to a residential site. So that was a change that we went over that last time. And then there were these four new provisions that are kind of essentially, I would call it bringing it into the 21st century, just updating it, making it a little bit more specific and essentially technically sound. So there's a limit on the illuminance, which is a measure of brightness at the ground. That just this number 3 just says use industry standards. Illuminating Engineering Society has standards for all different kinds of lighting, like a parking lot or roadway or whatever. It says use their standard and you can be above it by 50%. So it's pretty flexible. The temperature one is designed to avoid the harsh blue light that a lot of modern LEDs have. There's no need for them in almost every case. We've been following that 3000 K limit with the town stuff, or the street lights. The new street lights follow that. All of the new lighting at fire stations and all the stuff that the Energy Committee has been getting, the green community stuff. So it's good. It's a good thing to have. Sports lighting, that would seek to avoid the problems that have been reported with the high school. So it basically has some standards. It references a standard that's come out actually this year and would avoid, essentially make sure that the light stays within a short distance of a field, when you have a sports field lit up, rather than spilling out into the surrounding neighborhood. And then number 6 just says that anybody who's doing a construction project where they need a building permit and they submit information to the building inspector, they should include, specific information on the type of lighting that they're going to have. So the only thing I've added since our last meeting was in the definition of, let's see, where was it? Outdoor, okay, definition of outdoor lighting. I put in these specific examples. So, including but not limited to a building, parking lot, roadway, or sign. So just to make it clear that it kind of includes all those things, but not necessarily only those things. In particular, I think, Bill, you brought up there was no reference to signs in this bylaw. I always had interpreted it and intended that it did include signs, but I know that that wasn't always interpreted that way. So I wanted to, I don't know if this takes care of it, but the intent is that this does apply to lights on signs or lights inside signs, and effectively would ban internally illuminated signs. That was always the intent ever since 1997, but hasn't been followed. So one other thing I wanted to point out, I don't think I mentioned it or pointed it out the last meeting. At the end of all this, there's a series of diagrams, which I think would really be nice to have just in the bylaw. So, figure 1 here, this shows an example of a fully shielded light. So again, all the light goes down, none of it goes above the horizontal. There's another example. And then here's kind of a good and bad, bad on the left side, good on the right side of all different kinds of lights. So hopefully that would sort of help with the interpretation of what kinds of lights are acceptable and what are not. So I think that's
Okay.
about what
No, it's
what
good.
I've got.
I think we're gonna have to get an engineer as a building inspector. That's the problem. So I'm trying to figure out what I mean, the diagrams are great because anybody can understand those. But the whole thing about lumens, I mean, if you go to Home Depot, I don't think it's going to tell you how many lumens a particular fixture is.
Yeah, it does. Any fixture you buy, it tells you the lumens. But certainly the bulb, when you buy a light bulb, it tells you. Yeah, that's a totally standard thing. Now, as far as illuminance, which is different, so lumens is like a measure of the total light output of a light
Right.
of a light fixture, or a light bulb or whatever. Illuminance is a measure of how bright it is at a given location. So the illuminance is going to vary with your distance from the light source. That is easy to measure. So that what I would see is the building inspector would get a meter, which doesn't cost much. I'll donate one. I don't have one, but I'd be happy to buy one if that was an issue. It's easy. I've seen people use them. You just stand in the right location at night, and you could measure the illuminance. It's a simple measurement.
I guess I have one question, and that's for, is it C5, where you put in the updated, the updated August 2023. Do we want to instead say shall conform to the most recent, version of the Dark Sky International's outdoor sports lighting guidelines?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to handle that. I mean, this is the most recent right now. So you'd want to put in some language that says or more recent if available or something like that.
Yeah, I would shy away from specifics.
Just say the most recent version of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh. I mean, that seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's
And the other thing about Appendix A, if I have no idea whether it can be put in E code or not with pictures, But even if it isn't able to be put in, these should at least be available and filed with the bylaw in the building inspector's office, because these are really nice. It gives you, a picture. Pictures are always good. So for, the building department to be able to hand out at the very least.
Yeah, yeah. I would think we could. I'm hopeful we could just have that as part of the bylaw. But in any case, just
Yeah, it makes sense, but even if we can't, I think these should be somewhere included. Whether
right. I
it's,
mean, in the
yeah,
past, there had been that type of handout. I remember I had put something together or gotten it from somewhere, but it got stuck in a file, and I don't know how often it was used. I know Rich Hanks had used it in the past, our former building inspector.
right. Okay.
But this is a bit better one than what I had back then.
So do we want to refer this to legal to make sure we're not stepping on anybody's toes?
I think that makes sense.
One other thing, and maybe I should. We had a little discussion last time as to should this be a zoning bylaw or a general bylaw? And I don't really know the answer. I mean, somebody mentioned, well, the general bylaw only requires a 50, majority vote. Zoning requires 2/3. I don't know if that's a major consideration.
I think it should be a general bylaw
Yeah.
because
town
it
council
applies
will,
to everybody.
Right.
That's my feeling, but
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, if we're looking at the noise as a general bylaw, we might as well look as the light as a general bylaw as well, I think.
So now I've written this I started with the zoning bylaw, and this is essentially a red line update of the zoning bylaw. I mean, are we gonna, when we submit it to somebody for review, are we gonna just submit a clean language, or should I change this to an update of the general bylaw, which wouldn't take that long, I guess. Like, do we need to actually show the deletions and additions to the existing language, or do we just show here's the new language?
No, just show the new language.
Okay, so if I basically accept all these changes and it's a clean thing, and we just say, the only thing is I don't know if the formatting would be the same in a general bylaw, but whatever. That maybe that's not a big issue right now.
I'm not worried about the formatting yet.
No.
Yeah.
and maybe consult with town council on on the general bylaw versus zoning bylaw question too. I mean, I lean towards general, but
He'll be here next Tuesday.
oh, really?
That's in
Office hours.
4 to 7.
So is that could I or somebody, I don't know. I know it's sort of restricted who can use his time, right?
It's
Well,
not too bad.
I'd be happy to
When
do
he's-
that.
When he's here with his office hours, we can use his time.
Yeah.
We don't need to do anything except schedule it.
Yeah, and you do that through Sabrina.
Oh, so I could ask. So should I do it, or does somebody else want to do it?
I think you should, Michael.
Okay.
Because you're the one who's most familiar with it and can speak well to it. So.
And everyone takes one step backwards.
Well, if I could just chime in on this, he won't review it while you're sitting in the session.
Right.
So typically all it would be is, you email it to him. So if you want, I mean, I'll be meeting with him to submit regulation changes for the planning board. I can simply do it at that time as well, because he won't be able to turn it around for you in 15 minutes. So just ask Sabrina how, the best practice with town council, but that's the time to do it. Get it submitted, let him know that you want to review, and let him take it from there. Ask Sabrina.
Okay. So I'll clean this up, and I can ask Sabrina, I could just say here, should I send
Well,
him
get
a
it
copy
over,
or
get
send it to her?
it over to Adam by email. We should have his email address, so he can review it before you meet with him.
So typically he won't. I haven't had that experience anyway, because it's a pretty intense review. It's not like he can do it. He has his schedule or whatnot. So just ask Sabrina what the best practice is in terms of how to submit it, and she'll submit it. I don't think he'll be taking emails from personal email addresses. So we want to keep the flow, you know.
Yeah.
So ask Sabrina.
Okay.
All right. So, why don't we go back to the, noise, ordinance?
Okay, I could stop sharing, I guess. Let's see. Once I figure out how to do that, how to not share.
All right.
My initial reaction was the same as yours. It looks pretty good.
All right.
My only question was on their enforcement piece. They leave it up to the Board of Health to enforce. I don't know if that works here or not.
Yeah, who's the Board of Health? Are they just people who meet once a month kind of thing? You know? So,
I think they have to meet like every 2 weeks, the Board of Health, don't they?
It varies, depends on what's on their plate,
Yeah.
same as everybody.
Yeah, I'm
but
not
if
sure
somebody's
about-
like making a racket, you probably want somebody, wouldn't the enforcement be like, hey, you have to come over and check this out, you know, like now? I don't know. Rather
Well,
than
I'm
in
not
2
sure, you know, if we were able to use the Neshoba Regional as the enforcement people, that might work, but it's probably beyond their whatever. APR, area of primary responsibility. And I can't see the actual Board of Health doing enforcement. So I'm not sure that's gonna work.
Where are the enforcement procedures?
Number 6.
I mean, the only good thing about the Board of Health is that you don't want to argue with them.
It's our chapter 1 of the town's general ours non-criminal disposition of violations. That's in our E-code where enforcement is.
Uh-huh.
As an alternate to initiating criminal proceedings for violations of the following bylaws and regulations, the enforcing officers may use the procedure provided in MGL, blah, blah, blah. So do we put it under? I mean, this is all part of the enforcement thing, and it seems to me that if you go with our E-code, you don't put the enforcement within the regular bylaw. It's put separately.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the Board of Health is in here as the enforcement for, you know, like tobacco regulations or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, for zoning bylaws, business certificate non-compliance, Board of Health tobacco regulation, unregistered motor vehicle bylaw, dogs and animals, stormwater, public use of marijuana, automatic fire alarm system bylaw. Yeah, I mean, towns and wetland bylaws. So do we put something in here the way we want it to be enforced and just add another piece?
Right. That sounds reasonable.
Would that apply to the lighting also?
yeah, I think it would if it's a,
Well, lighting, as it's written now, it references the zoning enforcement officer. I don't know if we want to change that.
well, the zoning bylaw
Yeah.
for referenced that.
Right.
But the issue was the general bylaw and the interpretation. So if we, that was the issue, if I remember right.
Well, with the old, right, the way it's written now,
Yeah,
the
the
general
old
bylaw
way it
doesn't say
was.
anything about enforcement.
Yeah.
Right.
So we could just put it in under, we would put lighting bylaw, if it's a general bylaw versus a zoning bylaw.
Right.
And just the way we want it to be enforced.
Right. So what are the options? Like what's the universe of entities or people that could enforce bylaws like this? I mean,
Well, it was,
the building commissioner is one.
and we could put inspector of buildings if that's who we want. Definitely under zoning bylaw, Board of Health enforcing officers. So for the tobacco regulations, the enforcing officers are A, Townsend Police, and B, the Board of Health agent.
Well, that's Michelle then.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Unregistered motor vehicle bylaw, Townsend Police, building inspector. Enforcing officers for dogs and animals, Townsend Police and the animal control.
Well, it's probably good to have the police involved with the noise thing. That's,
Yeah, and it does mention that in the Pepperell one, it's the Board of Health or its designated agent. It says the town of Pepperell Police will be the designated first responder to situational or incidental noise complaints, which they may choose to refer to the Board of Health.
So I think we would just add another section to this piece of the E-code
right.
for that bylaw.
Yeah.
And then for lighting, if it's a general bylaw, we would add a lighting piece to this.
Yeah.
If it's a zoning bylaw, we would just keep it as is. I think the
Right. So would it be, it's part of the lighting bylaw, or would it be in some other place?
No, it would be this some other place, which is in the E-code. It's Chapter 1, Article 2 is non-criminal disposition of violations.
So it lists all the different bylaws and who enforces them, and that's in a separate area. I see.
Right. So that's the way our code is written. Pepperell's might be written differently. I don't really know, other than what we see here.
Right.
So I like the noise one otherwise.
Yeah, I do too.
It's good.
The technical aspects of it all seem reasonable.
Mm-hmm. So we'll write that up and adapt it for Townsend.
Yep.
And that's a general bylaw, correct?
Right.
So is that the extent of our bylaw enforcement discussion too? Or not?
I don't know.
I think it should be more robust.
Yeah.
I think that we should look at each bylaw and say, how is it being enforced? How is it being enforced? Or to write a catch-all for anything that doesn't have specific,
Right.
put a catch-all in. If it's not specified above, then it's the police followed by the whoever, followed by whomever.
Yeah. This is for general bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it takes in the zoning bylaws too, though. That Chapter 1, Article 2 mentions zoning bylaws. That's the first thing up there.
Well,
Anyway.
what about the town administrator as an enforcer of bylaws? I don't know. Is that an option? Because, when I had that problem with getting the building commissioner to enforce the lighting bylaw, in the last, like, a year, 2 years ago, um, Eric said, well, he would do it if the building commissioner refused to do it. So, we never actually went through that, but he offered to do it. Or I think he kind of said, well, I'll do it, but then I'll delegate it to him. But then we were back where we started, where he would just refuse to do it.
All right, so plastic bag reduction bylaw, enforcement agency, town administrator, or designee. So I guess the town administrator is somebody that could enforce if needed.
Yeah.
And the or designee means that then the town administrator would designate it to someone, but I don't think you really want your town administrator to be spending a ton of time on enforcement, other
Right.
than to delegate,
Right.
in which case, if there's someone that it makes sense to delegate it to, I think for the lighting bylaw, it would be, I think, the building inspector.
I do too.
On the assumption you have
Because
one who
lights
wants
are
to do it.
generally associated with
I
buildings.
mean, I don't know why. Are we at the
Exactly.
mercy of an employee of the town who just says, I just think this is BS and I'm not going to enforce it? That's what happened. I mean,
Well, that's when you escalate to their supervisor.
Right, and the
Who
town
is that, by the way?
administrator,
so who is their supervisor?
the town administrator.
Oh.
And the
Yeah.
zoning board.
I mean, I think like if it was the police, it's a little hard to imagine they would be willing to actually spend time, on something like.
I don't see the police going around saying, change your lights,
Right.
No.
Noise is
Maybe
a
the town
different story, but
administrator or
lighting,
designee,
yeah, I
maybe
think
that's
it's
the
a
way.
little more subtle.
Yeah,
Okay.
noise, I could see what police,
Mhm.
that could be a police
Because
matter.
that's a very in the moment kind of thing, and you need an immediate response.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking here to see.
Well, let me take this, I'll work on this Pepperell thing and rewrite it for Townsend.
I do think we need a catch-all for, enforcement.
So that's gonna be in that enforcement piece of the general bylaws?
It would be, yeah, like under, if no one is mentioned, it is blah, 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 probably
Yeah.
town administrator or designee.
Yeah, that makes sense, because like you said, he could then assign it to somebody.
Right.
Are we gonna run that by him before we write that
I
in?
think that's a good idea.
No, he's not here, he gets designated.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how we assign the clerk job on the zoning board, is whoever's not at the meeting.
Right.
All right, okay, onward and upward then. So, what are we gonna do, meet in another couple of weeks?
Well, don't we have a couple other things? Do
No,
we?
no, I'm just curious,
I think we should.
yeah, all right.
Can we afford to go every 2 weeks at this point, or
Or should we do every week?
kind of what I'm thinking?
I'm sorry, I missed the last meeting. Are any of these changes slated for town meeting? Because we do have our meeting set and public hearing dates. I can help with that. If anyone, needs public hearings set up, I'd be happy to do that.
I
We have a
think
budget?
there,
Do we have
Yeah.
a budget for that?
We don't have any budget.
No.
Any discussion on whether or not these are going to go to town meeting on May 7th, or?
I thought that was the intent, that this all was going to do that.
I thought so
I
too.
think we're in good shape on the lighting and the noise, that's for sure.
Great.
And there should be a public hearing. I
Right,
think.
the planning, well, no, for a general
For a
bylaw,
general bylaw, you don't have
you
to,
don't need to,
Right.
just from the
For-
zoning bylaw.
yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we won't
But it
need
might
any.
be, it might be a good idea to have a public hearing.
And who would
Yeah.
do it? Who would have a public hearing?
Well, I mean,
Be
I
us.
can't offer the planning board, but I mean, the committee might be able to, right? Or the Board of Selectmen, probably the Board of Selectmen,
Board of
right?
Selectmen.
Yeah. And you want to have it, a couple weeks before, of course, town
Right.
meeting.
Yeah, well, I think it's good, I mean, just so that town meeting, is not taken entirely by surprise.
Yeah.
You know, it's better if people have time to think about these things, and make a snap
So-
decision.
If it's helpful, the Board of Selectmen is meeting on April 16th, which is their last meeting before town meeting on May 7th. And if you want, maybe have the public hearing at a Board of Selectmen's meeting if they're amenable to that. You know what I mean?
What's the meeting before that?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to make it if it was April 16th. I'm going to be on a trip.
Okay, April 2nd, Tuesday.
I could do. Yeah, that's okay.
I won't be in town that day.
Yeah, I'll be
That's
on
okay.
a vacation. I'll be in Hawaii.
So will I.
Ooh, oh my gosh.
We
Now
won't
what?
be there
I
together.
wish I could
We're
join
not
in
together,
that
no.
party.
What island?
All right, so we
We're
could.
doing the Israel cruise.
Oh,
We
okay.
could go to March
Mhm.
19th, if you want to go in March 19th. I can ask, Sabrina or,
Yeah, let's just book the time for March 19th,
okay.
I think,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't mind checking on that, Beth.
No, I don't mind at all. And if I have a definite, which bylaws are, going to go forth, well, let me know too, and I'll keep a list of what's definitely going forth. So far, it's the lighting and the noise, right?
Noise. Yep.
Great.
And then I have one that I want us, this is our homework for next time.
Mhm.
For inclusionary zoning.
Ah, okay.
If you look at 140, section 145, 48, so it's a zoning bylaw,
Mhm.
a density bonus for affordable housing, and it is elective.
Mhm.
I would like to consider it to not be elective, to be required,
Okay.
in order to, either gain affordable housing within the town or funds for affordable housing, funds designated to
Okay.
affordable housing. So I have two bylaws here. They're hard copies, so those of you who are not present.
I'm down the hall. I'll come
I
grab.
can email, if I have an email that I can forward to you, Michael, and Beth, I'll just drop these off or whatever.
Okay.
But they're, Stowe and Dunstable both have inclusionary zoning bylaws, and I just, especially with Dunstable, you really have to look at their total bylaw because they use different wording for things. They call it community housing, and that can cover 55 and over or workforce housing. And I didn't give you the definition, but I do have the email that I sent to Sabrina, and I'll just BCC everybody or I'll ask Sabrina to send it out to you guys, because I don't know if I have everybody's email address. But anyway,
Great.
yeah, so just for consideration, and then to also look at 145, 48, or what we have in place right now that has, I don't believe, ever been acted on
Oh, great.
in the history of the town since that bylaw went into place.
I think you're
Okay.
right.
I don't think it has ever been used.
Okay. Great.
This is the 8.9 inclusion of.
8.9, yes.
Okay.
That is for Stowe, that's Stowe's, right? 8.9?
Yep.
And then for Dunstable, neither of these were in E-code. They don't use E-code for their bylaws.
Hmm.
So I had to go directly to their zoning So it's written differently from how ours is, and it's not as easy to pull up. And you really have to look at their complete bylaws. So I have the links to those in the email that I had sent Sabrina. So, and I'd like this on the agenda for next time, if
Right.
that's okay, Bill?
I also submitted something for next time. One word needs to be changed in the COA bylaws.
Okay.
They have 4-year terms for the COA.
Right, I saw
The
that.
Council on Aging, it's 3.
Oh,
So I submitted that.
that would probably
That will pass
end a
probably.
lot of, and a lot of confusion. I just remember COA was like, wait, they're not up until blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's,
And in fact, it is up.
yeah.
So, okay. That makes sense. So we have those two for next time. If anybody's gonna meet with council, it might make sense to discuss how to put in general enforcement into the code.
All
Mhm.
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be meeting with him, so I can do that. Definitely. And I also
You know,
wanted
the best way to do that, or do we have to go through every bylaw and say, if it needs enforced, what do we have to do? If it needs enforced, what do we have to do?
Okay.
You know, because we had to change when I was on the select board, I know we had to change the motor vehicle bylaw enforcement, and I forget what the issue was, but that, you know, there were more than once that enforcement issues came up for various bylaws, and it just wasn't in place, and there was no catch-all.
I recall.
So-
Yep. So yeah, I can add that in. If you wanted to send me an email, again, I'm meeting with him on the 30th. So there's plenty of time, Veronica, if you want to send something.
Okay.
I can ask that. And I just wanted to add, I don't know if the bylaw committee knew that we did get a revised and updated multifamily overlay district bylaw. It's for the MBTA communities. So that's been updated, and I'm going to forward that in for your review. And then maybe on the next agenda, we can look through that as well. The
Is
planning board-
there a public hearing for that at any point?
There will be. Right now, we're scheduling the public hearing for pretty close to town meeting, tentatively on April 8th. So it hasn't been through council yet, but we've been working with MRPC and collecting information from the survey. I hope everybody did the survey on the wording. And we've been working, there's a working committee that's met number of times. So it's time for another look. If you wouldn't mind, I'll send that in and you'd have a look at that.
And is it appropriate to send comments prior to the public meeting?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, the more
Okay.
eyes, the better. Yeah. I think.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. We can incorporate your comments in the hearing.
Yeah, it's still coming together.
So that'll be on the May town meeting then. Great.
That's what we're hoping for. Yep. That's what we're
Yep,
working towards.
Good to get that out of the way.
Yes. Yeah. Ahead of schedule. That would be great. Mhm. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
So the next item was, I made some changes, suggested changes to the accessory apartment bylaw. We had talked about this a little bit. And all I have is I didn't use the words changes thing. I should have done that, but.
Were these things that we looked at last time, or are these
Yes,
different from that?
no, it's the same
They were
thing.
pretty minor, but they
Right.
made a difference.
Yeah. Well, one thing, it takes the problem of the way it reads
Septic.
now, it looks like the Board of Health changes have to be done before they apply for the permit, so.
Yeah, no, that was never the intent.
No, I know, so,
No.
but we've been ignoring that, but I want to fix it so that it doesn't look that way anymore, so.
Okay, so those didn't come out in what was sent, correct? It was last time.
Yeah, I didn't get anything on the accessory apartment bylaw.
I think it was the last meeting. There was stuff in the last meeting,
Uh-huh.
I believe, because I know I've read through them. And we talked about it somewhat last time.
Yeah,
Veronica, you were involved in the drafting of that amendment in 2019.
I was.
You do realize there is no renewal period, right? That was part of the intent. There is no renewal period for
Right.
accessory apartments. We've been going
Right.
through this with the ZBA.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we missed that. I thought, though, that we were doing it through CHAPA or whoever. There's not a single accessory apartment on the affordable list for the town of Townsend.
Yeah, they keep getting at. We almost had an affordable, but the bylaw didn't work, unfortunately. The affordable apartment, accessory apartment was never, I believe,
affordable.
yeah, worked through. Yeah, sadly. But so the ZBA, as Bill will know, when we do get a renewal from years ago, we'll go ahead and put in a sunset clause now because there's no expiration date in the bylaw. And I'm hoping that's the intent. I think it's fine, but it does preclude the neighbors from a hearing every 5 years, if that was something that was important.
Oh, I mean, we did it that way for a reason.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep. Yeah.
We kind of like the special permits that expired after, like our earth removal bylaw is a 3-year special permit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because,
some people get
if that
forever
was,
one.
if that was a long-term permit, we'd have all kinds of problems, so.
So does that mean that might be another change to this, to the accessory apartment bylaw, to put that renewal period back in, or that expiration back in?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
We've never really had an issue. I mean.
Yeah.
Basically, we wanted people to have to come back in case there was some kind of nuisance thing going on.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's like when they used to spell motorcycle parts at that little place down by the water department.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great.
I think the neighbors were somewhat taken aback, and fortunately the place went belly up, so it wasn't a big deal. But
yeah,
that was the whole idea of a short-term special permit, was to kind of get acquainted with an applicant and make sure it wasn't going to be a nuisance. So.
Yeah, and all the renewals that we're doing are simply, the family member's still there, nothing's changed, so yeah, I'm in favor of the the expiration date. And if the ZBA wants to, the ZBA has the discretion if they want it, so to speak, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, that's the only thing I forgot was no, wait a minute. What was I just thinking about? Oh, the
quote?
The issue of a existing accessory apartment that exceeds the 800 square feet allowed in the new bylaw. So if we had somebody who, I don't know if this is worth thinking about, because if we had a permit out there that exceeds the 800 square feet that needs to be renewed or reapplied for, well, in the case of a transfer of property, we want the new owner to reapply. So, so it's going to come up. I think it already did once, right?
Oh yeah, yep. I think
so. I wanted to explicitly say that we don't expect a previously issued permit to reduce the amount of square feet that they have to comply with the new version of the bylaw.
No, I don't think that was ever the intent.
Yeah.
No,
So.
yeah.
Those were grandfathered. This was going forward.
Well, we, you
Yeah.
know, we have to get our act together because, grandfather is racist.
Well, there was a public hearing on this bill back when it was in place, and the CBA could have attended. I will just say that we didn't do this without a public hearing.
Oh, no,
There
I'm
were
just saying,
opportunities
we
to,
can't use the word grandfathering. There's some other expression that you're supposed to use.
That's right. Yeah. What's the difference? I'll look it up.
We need to kind of educate everybody on that because it's racist, apparently. Something to do with voting rights in the South for black people. But anyway, all right, well, let me write these up with in Word with the corrections so everybody can see what's going on. And I'll send it out and put it on the agenda for next time
that sounds
and
good.
put the thing to bed.
Okay. Oh, we could say pre-approved, pre-authorized instead of grandfathered. So,
Pre-approved or pre-authorized?
yep,
Okay.
those all work.
Okay. All right, where were we now?
Use the quote.
Oh, yeah, I called, I called the law firm that did our 1980s rewrite for us, and I haven't heard back from them yet, but they were kind of interested in quoting on that. So hopefully I'll hear something from this week. So we get a second quote at least on that. I don't know how good this New Hampshire outfit is. I mean, it's suspiciously close to the University of New Hampshire. And I don't know exactly what sort of work they're capable of. So
Is that a diss of the University of New Hampshire down here? What are you saying, Bill?
well, I'm just saying I'm not sure I want college kids working on my zoning bylaw. That's all.
Well, that happens even if
What
you,
was, I wanted to make sure I read through it, but would they be doing an overall review of the entire bylaws, or is it focusing on things that we're talking about, that the new stuff that we're proposing or the updates? Or
Well, there were two quotes, and one of them was a comprehensive examination of the bylaw.
right.
So, but New Hampshire is a very different place from Massachusetts, so I don't know.
I think just because they're in New Hampshire, located in New Hampshire, does not necessarily mean that they would not know Massachusetts bylaws.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, I am jumping to conclusions.
otherwise they would be limited, and it says Rochester, New York at the bottom. Anyway.
Rochester, New Hampshire. Yeah. Well, the other option is to invite Mr. Dumont to a meeting, a bylaw review committee meeting, and he can explain the process, what you're looking at in the quote.
Yeah, well, I think we should certainly do that.
Yeah, and then we can also ask for examples of nearby towns, because I do believe that either Ashburnham or Ashby is using this service. So we could also.
do we know anybody in Ashby that's actually using them? We could just talk to them and see how they
Right.
like it.
Yeah, I can make a call there for sure. Yeah, and follow up and just get a reference,
Yeah, that'd be great.
I can do that by email. Whatnot. Okay.
Cool.
Let me make a note.
And discuss bylaw enforcement, which we've kind of been doing ad nauseam here. Yeah, we don't have John Wilder anymore. We had a guy on the zoning board who he would follow sand trucks on the weekend. And he actually got into some arguments with the sand truck drivers.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty amazing. At least he didn't get beaten up. But you don't have as much craziness going on nowadays as you used to.
So are we good?
I think we're good. Should we should probably talk to Adam about this whole enforcement thing too.
Do you want to come in, Bill, and sit down with them for a few minutes?
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do that.
All right. Yeah. Cool. We'll get that set up for you.
Anybody got anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Well, do we
Okay.
need to set a meeting date for our next meeting?
Or didn't we?
We talked about in general,
Oh,
but we didn't set a date.
next week? What's the date that everything has to be prepared? If we're going to be at the, what is it, March 19th?
March 19th, we should have everything prepared by then, yeah. Because any kind of hearing, we're liable to get feedback and need to modify some things, you know. That's what you ideally like. You'd like to get feedback before town meeting. So, yeah, so you have time to respond and, you know, improve your chances of being successful at town meeting.
Okay, so do
So-
we want to meet next week and we can talk about the things that we discussed? I know that you won't talk to Adam until Tuesday,
Right.
so maybe we want to do next week and the following week.
Yeah. So we have 8 more Mondays
And before that meeting,
before the 19th.
and if we're gonna have hire someone to review,
We don't have a lot of time to figure that out, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, let's meet.
Well, we haven't got money to hire him, so I don't know how we're gonna do that. Right?
Oh, well, there might be a slush fund somewhere, I don't know, so.
The legal review is way more important, I think, on some of these things. I'm not too worried about stepping on our toes and, you know, unforeseen consequences, but going forward with this community thing that you want to do, that's probably got a lot more pitfalls that need review.
The inclusionary zoning? you mean?
Yeah, than the other things that we're up to. So, 4 o'clock next week, next Monday?
Yep,
Okay. The 5th? No, the 29th?
yes.
Okay.
And I think we should schedule the 5th too while we're at it.
Yeah.
So for 4 PM on the 5th as well.
Yep.
Does Sabrina get the Zoom links? Or should I? Yeah, because she does all the agendas for us. Is the 19th a holiday, February 19th? That's a holiday,
It
right?
is, yes.
Yeah, I'll be out of pocket on the 12th and the 19th, but I could, let's see. I could get in by Zoom. That's okay.
Well, let's just do the 29th and the 5th and then see where we are.
Yeah, okay.
So just to make sure I understand, with my lighting issue, I'm gonna clean it up, clean up the language, and then check with Sabrina on how to communicate with the town council, and hopefully send him a copy, and then ask to meet next Tuesday.
Yeah.
I understanding he's not
Mhm.
gonna maybe not have reviewed it by then or whatever.
Right. Yeah, no, that's
All right,
perfect. Mhm.
makes sense.
Just tell him the quicker he reviews it, we'll buy him a bottle.
Okay. What's his name? I forgot.
Adam,
Huh?
Adam Costa.
Adam Costa?
Mhm.
So you're gonna write it as a general instead of a zoning bylaw, Michael?
Okay.
All right.
I'm not sure that affects at this point any of the language. I guess at the beginning, there's kind of a reference to what section it is. I can make sure that that's clear.
Great. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All your members, Michael,
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Yes,
Rick.
yes.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. So the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.